Hello everyone. We're getting very close to Samhain and Halloween and Dia de los Muertos, so I want to wish you all a very happy season. I thought I would talk a little bit about offerings today. I get the question pretty regularly about how do you know if your offerings have been accepted, and how do you know if your spell work is working. I'll probably approach the spell work thing in another video. It's kind of a complicated topic. I'll tell you some things that I do. And you know, you'll have to just sort of go from there, and I can give you some tips as to what's the best way to start leaving offerings and a few ways to, you know, people always have the question about leaving them outside and things like that. I do cover offerings in several of my other videos, so they'll give you more detail, but I'm just going to go into a few things here. So, I'm a devotee of Marie Laveau. So common offerings that I leave for her are always, and I do this every day for her, I light a candle for her. And, you know, it's going to seem like a lot of work to you guys in the beginning, but once you get, you know, once you get the method down and it becomes part of your routine, you don't really think about it anymore as, you know, how long it's taking or how many steps it is or whatever. So I leave her a cup of rum. She also seems to like little pieces of old brick, so I'll collect those, or I'll have friends bring them to me and I'll leave them to her. I leave her cigarettes, hot peppers. She seems to like the color purple, so I always light a candle for her. It's usually, and it's almost always purple or like a 7-color candle. So, you know, how do we know she likes these things? So it's been a very long tradition in New Orleans. We can't do it anymore. If you have a cool tour guide, they'll still let you leave a small offering, but the Catholic Diocese owns St. Louis Cemetery #1 now. And, you know, a lot of people had mixed feelings about that because they felt that it was just about money, because now you have to pay like $30 to take a tour guide in there in order to go in. But, you know, there was a lot of vandalism happening, and her tomb does need to be refurbished every so often. This is a historical monument, so we need to protect it. And I think with people going in there, I think people going in there and leaving an offering is one thing, but people are, you know, taking like little chunks out of it and things like that, and, you know, eventually it's going to destroy it. So I kind of see it as a good thing. I don't mind that you have to take a tour guide now. I got to see it before you had to take a tour guide, and you know what, it's a really beautiful, amazing monument, and it was, you know, wonderful to see all of these just pounds and pounds and pounds of offerings out there. So you would often see hot peppers and cigars. I would bring cigars and coins. Coins are always a good one. Something that you saw a lot, which I don't recommend, we're getting into talking to other offerings now. She was, you know, she was a beautician by trade. So a lot of people will leave cosmetics like out of their purse, and I get it, like they see everybody else doing it and they want to leave something. Maybe they didn't come prepared, and everybody has a lip gloss in their purse or something, so they were leaving a lot of like you know, lipsticks and lip glosses and compacts and a lot of beads, of course. So my only thing with that is that, you know, if you were doing this at any other grave where it wasn't going to be cleaned up regularly, because they do, you know, haul away all the offerings every so often, you know, that stuff it's not going to decompose. So keep in mind your offerings like that. One thing you can do when you do a food offering is use like a tortilla or some type of wrap to like serve it on, especially if you want to fry it up a little bit first and get it like hard, so it will act as your dish for your offerings. So then you can put those on that, your offerings on top of it, and leave it outside, and then you don't have to worry about a plate. So that's one thing. I would say, you know, a lot of people, they want to do divination to see if their offerings have been accepted, and I'm really not for that, because I think, you know, the reader's going to read what it wants to. So I don't think it's good to like, okay, so you know, you're leaving an offering for your deity, and you should just be doing this out of, you know, the goodness of your heart and out of respect and honor to them. People kind of think, oh, I need something right now, so let me leave an offering. But that's the exact opposite of how it should be. This should be a, you know, a daily or weekly or at least, you know, bi-weekly practice that you get into. I've made the analogy before that, you know, if you you know, say you know, you bake a cake for your neighbor and you take it over there, like, do you think your neighbor's going to be like, no, I don't want that cake you just made for me? No, of course not. So I think offerings are always accepted. That does not necessarily mean that if you asked for something with that offering and you're using that offering as payment, that doesn't mean that they're going to agree to do it. Just like people don't have to, you can be nice to them, but they still don't have to do what you want. So, you know, so that's where the question comes in, is people will say, well, how do you know that your offerings have been accepted or that your work is going to be granted? And you don't. So you can't, I absolutely don't believe in pulling out any type of divination to try to figure out if the answer is yes, if the answer is no. What you do is, you know, you put the offerings out there, you do it with good intention. The idea is to build a relationship and build a rapport for a while. And the way you do that is you really need to get to know the spirits or the deities that you're leaving offerings to. And this is done by research. The internet is full of information. I have a huge list of books on my website that's recommended reading. It's under the About Us section at the bottom of the site. You really need to do your research and read up on what they like, what they don't like, maybe the right day to do it, the right time, things like that. So, you know, you need to get to know the person. You don't want to ask somebody a favor and take them over like food they hate, you know. What if you make somebody a meatloaf, then they don't like meatloaf? Like, you know, you need to figure out what people like. The same thing with your spirits. Like, you just need to put some effort into it. I think people are so reactionary with spiritual work and spell work. And it's like they don't do anything all year and then something shitty happens and then they want to like hurry up and fix it. And they want to make like a big offering, the biggest altar they can with the biggest, cook the biggest offering they can, and they think that's going to fix it, and it's not. So you're just, you need to have a proactive approach about your spiritual work, not wait until like this shit has hit the fan, you know. So study your deities, get to know them, what they like, and you also need to learn a little bit about yourself, about your own intuition and how you interpret symbolism and synchronicity around you and how you receive messages from your spirits. I'm somebody who gets I know different spirits are around because of my sense of smell. I can smell the difference between them. I know when Marie Laveau is happy. I know I smell jasmine. So that's something that happens for me. And it's something that you have to be in tune to, and you have to start to look for, you have to look for connections and what keeps reappearing in your life, what keeps happening when you make an offering. And you won't be able to start recording this and have an accurate record of what's coming forth in your life and what's happening for you if you're not doing this regularly. So you have to have a regular practice. You know, it's like, having an altar, and people will say, oh, well, I don't have an altar. And I'm like, well, I mean, what are you doing this for then? Like, what's the, that's a huge part of it. It's like being a chef and having no pans. Like you got to have a place to do this and to do your work, and to have your own centered time with focus where you learn about, how you interpret things and how you can work with your spirits and how you can serve your spirits. So even if it's just a little, your nightstand in your room where you keep your books and, a candle or something like that, or a little shelf or whatever, you have to have some space to sort of work at and focus at. You need a tool to help focus your energy, and you need tools to help get you started. I don't think you need a ton of things to get started on this path. I do think it's important in the beginning to have, a certain amount of oils and a certain amount of candles to do your offerings with and to do your daily or weekly or bi-weekly work with, just because I think you need to understand how those things work in the beginning, and I think it makes it easier for you to focus. So as you go further on, you may not rely on those tools so much because you have more ability to focus on your own without the actually having to use tools or having to have tools around you. But I do think it's important to learn the history behind them and how they're used. And yeah, just to give you a basis to your work, and so you can begin to do offerings. It helps a lot of people to have those tools in the beginning, because so many people want exact guidance, like, you know, I do this and then this step and then this step and then this step. So it really helps them get a system down. It really helps them get a routine down with their offerings and their spiritual work. So yeah, I hope that maybe, you know, helps a little bit. I think that, you know, if you are making offerings, to me, offerings and spell work, you know, they don't have to be related. So if you're making offerings regularly, I think there's absolutely no reason to assume that they're not being accepted. If you're just making offerings to get something out of your guides or your spirits, I mean, I would encourage you to maybe think about how that sounds. It's kind of like, you know, if you always have somebody, they are always asking you for things and asking you for things and asking you for things, but they never really do anything for you, or they never offer to help you out when you need it, then pretty soon you're going to start saying no, because you're kind of tired of it. So that's why I'm really encouraging you to make a regular practice of offerings, not just with your spell work, not just when you need something. You know, we should be generous and give from our hearts just for the sake of being generous and giving from our hearts, not to get something, not as a reaction to something that has happened in our lives because we have neglected our spiritual state for so long. So I mean, if it's just like you know, your marriage or your you know, your partnership, you know, if you neglect it, it's going to start falling apart, and then you have to scramble to try to put it back together. So wouldn't it just make more sense to just work on it a little bit every day, instead of waiting till there's like a big emergency you have to try to fix that sometimes you can't fix? So I hope that helps. I hope that clears up a little bit about offerings, and don't rely so much on whether they've been accepted or not, because they have. If you're doing it from your heart and you're not constantly asking for something, they're always going to be accepted. There's no reason not to. Psalm 23 tells us, it says, "May he remember all your sacrifices and offerings, and may he look upon your burnt offerings with favor." So to me, this is like, they will remember all of your offerings, and they'll remember all of the sacrifice and work that you did. They especially like your offerings that are tangible, like incense or food. But keep that in mind, okay? They're always going to accept it. They're always going to remember it. They're always going to look upon it in favor. So don't worry so much. Just start doing it. Just get into the practice of doing it, and don't worry so much about whether, you know, you're going to get a flashing sign that says yes or no, it's been accepted. Just assume it's been accepted, and keep on with your daily work and keep working towards your goals. Okay, I hope you guys have a beautiful holiday this week, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.